My name is Miyoko, and I'm from Venice, California.
Can you describe the Venice that you grew up in?
The Venice I grew up in was a community. Every day we hung out as kids, we had sports. It was fun. Being a kid growing up in Venice, it was different because our community showed us love. Being a part of Oakwood and Vera Davis Center, having that growing up as a kid, it was fun to me. Talent shows.
And what street did you grow up on? What avenue?
I grew up on 6th and Santa Clara.
Tell people what year you was born.
I was born in 1983.
Okay. So how was Venice in the 90s then? How would you describe Oakwood in the 90s? How was the neighborhood in the 90s?
Venice in the 90s was the business. You couldn't come to Venice if you wasn't from Venice. Back then, you couldn't walk the streets how people do now because you'll either get jacked or killed. I mean, that's how it was in Venice back in the 90s. It wasn't all bad,
In the neighborhood that you grew up in Venice, what percentage would you say was black and white? How many white people did you see on an everyday basis growing up in the neighborhood?
At that time, I want to say I can say 20%. It wasn't so, yeah, because I had neighbors down the street we used to go to. They were white. Play the drums, next door neighbors.
How much percent of the neighborhood in Venice do you think is white now?
100%. 100%.
Do you think Venice will ever be predominantly black and brown again?
No, never. Because right now it's about the money. You gotta have the money to live out here.
Yeah.
You ain't got no money, you can't live in Venice. Look how much this rent is, sky high. Look how much these properties going for. It will never be how it was before.
How many years did you live in Venice?
My whole life until I turned 22. That's when I left Venice.
And what was the reason you left?
I left Venice because my family sold our property. I was terrified leaving Venice because this is all I knew. I grew up in Venice. This is my family. This is my home. This is all I knew. I didn't want to go nowhere else. I was always that adventurous one in my, friends. I would always go to LA, catch the bus, but Venice was my home. So when it was time for me to go, yeah, I cried like a baby because this is all I knew. I didn't want to go to LA even though I knew about LA. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to stay in Venice because nothing was like Venice. I had a baby. I wanted to raise my son in Venice.
Do any of your family own property in Venice now?
Nope, which is a big mistake because now the property value has gone up and I just wish we could have kept that just for the sake to keep it in the family.
When did you see the city start to change? What year?
As soon as I was moving out of Venice, I want to say 2005, 6. That's when I started seeing a change because people started selling properties. Families started selling properties. They wanted money. Not that it didn't change at the time that, people were selling, but now, you could see the change about time 2000, I want to say 9, 10 hit. Start changing a whole lot.
And when you were growing up, would you ever have imagined Venice looked like this?
No, never. Well, you know what? I can't say that because my grandmother always said, if you out there in the street, you need to buy property. Buy your parents' house in Venice. Because in a minute, these white folks going to wipe us out and we ain't going to have nowhere to come to. She used to always say that, and I never believed her. Nobody didn't listen to her, but now look.
My grandma, what was her name?
Daisy Mae Smith.
How do you feel like she knew?
She knew because at the time, everybody was out here selling dope, making their money, having cars and chains and Gucci boots and, all that. You saw all the money coming in, but where was it going? On materialistic stuff instead of investing in property.
So if all the homies back in the day that was selling dope making money, if they would have all invested in property, what would Venice look like today?
I could say it wouldn't look like how it look like now. I mean, it'll probably still be a community, but it wouldn't, it wouldn't be how it is. But police wasn't letting that happen.
How did the police affect the change?
Gang injunction. Soon as they came out with the gang injunction, that's when everything changed. They was just taking all the homies to jail left and right. Oh, you can't be with this person, you can't be with that person. So once the gang injunction came, that's when it hit everybody. I mean, it was like wiping everybody out and putting them in jail, So it was whack. It was whack because it felt like they had power over everybody because of the gang injunction.
And was there a certain year that the gang injunction started?
From what I recall, I heard the gang injunction started back in the 80s. I'm not for sure when it hit the hood.
When did you start seeing it affect events?
In the 2000s.
In 2000?
Yes, I started seeing it affecting us in the 2000s when we was all out there young and hanging out and being at Oakwood, block to block, being on Indiana, just hanging out. And, they didn't like that. They was like, y'all with this person? Oh, we taking y'all. So it was crazy.
In your generation, the people you grew up with, how many people own property in Venice in your generation that you know?
Nobody.
Not one person?
Not one person.
Wow. And do you think with all the money that was being made from selling drugs and all that back in the day, people could have saved up enough money to own property?
Yeah, I mean, you could have gave it to your parents. Put it in the savings or, did the right thing with it, When you dealing with money like that, it's either the feds or you're going to jail or you're dying. Either three.
So in your opinion, did Venice change for the better or for the worse?
It changed for the better, but it changed for the worse for us because nobody's here anymore. You only got a few people that still do live in Venice. But at the end of the day, we can only come back when it's something, a community day, everybody get together. But other than that, yeah, that was the worst time for us because now it's like nobody's here.
For somebody who's never been to Venice, can you describe the feeling that Venice gives you?
Venice gives me a good feeling when I come out here because the palm trees, the sunshine, the beach, the feel, the culture.
Where do you spend most of your time growing up in Venice, in the neighborhood? Where do you spend most of your time?
Broadway.
What was on Broadway?
On Broadway. Oh, Lord. I started coming out when I was 14, 13, hanging on Broadway at the Ham's house with my girl, Naisha.
Okay.
And it started with me kicking it with Shamika Martin, that's my sister. Well, we like sisters. Me and her grew up together, so she introduced me to Broadway. I didn't know nothing about Broadway. All I just knew when I walked down Broadway, I was going to church with a Bible in my hand and walking past everybody that was out there selling dope. I just wanted to walk down the block because I just wanted to see who was down there.
Where is your favorite place in the neighborhood?
My favorite place in the neighborhood is actually Oakwood because I can actually still come back to my community, bring my kids, my son. He was raised in Venice too until he was 2, but he's older now. He's 16. I still kept him in Venice. He goes to Venice High because that's our roots. Yeah, this is my place.
Can you name the craziest or scariest experience you ever had in Venice?
I remember my auntie took us on a beach and it was me and my cousin. So we go on the beach. Next thing you know, I see some man in some ski masks, Uzis, everything, something I ain't never seen before as a kid. We running for cover because they started shooting. We don't know who was shooting, they just started shooting. I just saw men in all black. And all I just remember is running, my auntie like, let's go. So we ran towards Broadway, ended on 5th and Broadway, and my auntie Glenda and them stayed there at the time. So we had ran to their house, just to be safe. Because as a kid, I didn't know. I was scared for my life.
Where was the shooting at? On the beach?
On the beach. On the beach.
And how old were you?
I had to be like 6 or 7.
Wow.
I was young, but I remember
Who were you with?
I was with my auntie Gwen. Gwen Mosley.
Can you tell me your favorite childhood memory in the hood?
I had so many, but my favorite was when we used to do talent shows, and we used to be at Pearl White Theater with Melvin, and we used to go to Westminster School. We used to do them at Oakwood, but it was this one particular time when I want to say Robert Shipp, Pastor Shipp now. They had this song, and it was called Gang Bang. It went something like this. Gang bang, you're dead, you're lying in the street. Gang bang, sitting there like a cold piece of meat. Gang banger, tell me brother what you gonna do. Gang bang to the corner with the bag on you.
And where was that talent show at, you said?
Westminster.
Westminster Elementary School?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Did you say y'all did talent shows elsewhere too?
Yep, we did them at Oakwood here.
Okay.
We did plays, talent shows. We used to dance. Man, nothing like Venice, for real. We had it good when we was kids. I can really say that, because it was like without the sports, without football, without baseball, without, having good leaders like Melvin, Stokes, Mondo, Victor, Lee. Everybody was leaders to us when we were kids. They showed us different. Tyon, because we used to be out here playing softball, girls against girls. We had the bomb team, and we was on some good teams, man. I miss those days. Those was real good days.
What was your favorite food spot in Venice growing up?
Hoagie's. Everybody know that. Hoagie's. It's been around since the 60s, 70s. They got the best steak sandwiches ever, and it's still there after all these years.
Is it family owned?
Yep, family owned. It's family owned. You're not from Venice if you don't know about Hoagie's.
I feel like that's one of the only spots in Venice that's still around.
Yeah.
Like original spots at least.
Yeah.
I remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's basically it. Hoagie's is it. Everything else is gone. Glencrest is gone.
Sure.
All the good food spots is gone, but Hoagie's still remains the same. So go to Hoagie's.
Can you tell me the most important lesson that you've learned in your life?
I learned a lot of lessons in my life. Me being a parent and raising my son to be a man that he is today, I'm very grateful and appreciative of that. He's not into gangs. He likes football. He wants to go to college.
Back in the day when you was hanging out with the homies, how did motherhood change your life? How did it change you as a person?
It changed me because I knew I didn't want to go to jail. I had a son to live for. I had to get a career. So once I went to Bryman, I ended up getting a massage therapy. I was working at a chiropractor's office in Santa Monica, making good money. I had to really grow up. I had to really become a mother. I had to really teach my son the values, and I had to really teach him respect. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have respect, you have nothing. Now that I'm a mother, I have to fulfill that dream for my son that I never got fulfilled, because I never had that. I was raised by my grandparents. My mom was on drugs at the time. I never got no love from her. Like, she'll tell me she loved me, but it was the drugs she was after. And with my son, I didn't want to teach him that, so I had to show him love. I comforted him, I loved him, and just taught him values, something that I never got taught. Well, I did get taught by my grandparents, but like I said, never by my mama or my daddy.
And what's the most rewarding thing for you about parenthood?
Is having my babies. I love them. And being that mother to them and nurturing them and loving on them. I love my kids, and it's rewarding to me to be a mother, because I was just talking to my auntie the other day and telling her that I give my kids what my mother never gave me, and that was love. So for me to give that to my kids, it's rewarding to me.
And if there was one thing you could tell your younger self, what would it be? One piece of advice.
If I was younger again, I would have told myself to get a damn career, go to college, and still keep property in Venice.
Any last words for the video? Last piece of advice or anything you want to say?
I just want to thank my Venice family, because without you guys, half of us wouldn't be who we are today. We come from a city of culture. We come from a city of, love, a community, and hopefully we get a community day so we can reunite and do it all over again. If you like this content, subscribe to GV Local.